I believe that I was put on this earth to make a difference in the world. So when I leave here, that this world should be a little better place for me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real State of Black America. I'm your host, Terrence Alton Cox III. On this show, we view things from a broader sense. We look at things from a different perspective. And sometimes we just rip the Band-Aid off. History is a funny thing. Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace, LaTosha Causey. The reason why they're in NASCAR is because of black kids. Let me explain that. Michael Jordan and Hamlin got together and created a team with Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is a driver. LaTosha is the first black female appointed to a track out in Phoenix. She's the president of the track. All that's real good. But where is the celebration that got them in the game of NASCAR? Where is the celebration that brought NASCAR to where they're at today? It was a bunch of black kids called Minority Youth Matter Movement. Where's the history on the black kids that brought this kind of level of activation? Where is the history of the black clergy that protest for 2 years to put Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace, and LaTosha in the positions that they're in? The real state of Black American motorsports, American Standard Motorsports. How Bubba Wallace ended up coming from the lower level to the top of the game is because they did that to get in front of these thousands of black kids that were protesting for equality. In the world of motorsports, the funny thing about this is it seems to me that Mr. Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace, and LaTosha, they should be, every time they turn around, they should be thanking these young kids for opening up the doors for them to get into the world of motorsport. Someone asked the question, why is young Bubba Wallace the most hated driver in NASCAR? Well, the reality is nobody wants to talk about it. All the other drivers can't say it. This is the real state of Black America. The other drivers understand that, Bubba, you're in that car not because of your skill, and I'm proud of you. You've come a long way. You're in that car because NASCAR needed to get in front of these black kids in this lawsuit, so they reached down to the lower level, brought you up. But when they brought you up to the top of the game, you don't have a humble spirit. So now all of the white drivers are whispering, well, the only reason he's in that car because of them black kids, but they can't say it, because if they say it, then you got the racial tone comes in. The black folks don't get upset. Black people, let me tell you exactly. All three of them, Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace, and LaTosha, they're in their position because of your kids. We're not going to let this kind of history just slide away. It's not going to be like a puff of smoke and disappear. This conversation starts here and it will continue. These kids need to be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Bubba Wallace and Michael Jordan owns the number 23 car. Now, that's a Toyota product. The reason why Bubba Wallace fan base is not massive like one of the entertainers, because everybody in the motorsport industry know, well, wait a minute, Bubba Wallace has never mentioned the reason why he's in that seat because of black kids. I want you to take a look at some of these pictures, and I have thousands of them. Listen to me, media. I have thousands of pictures of these black kids, California, Dallas, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, New York that brought this change that none of the three of them are talking about. And Netflix. It was an absolute insult that you did a series on Bubba Wallace and you didn't mention the black kids. Now, if those were black kids selling drugs, doing crimes, it would have been all over the newspaper, all in the media. Now, this is a very passionate part of a conversation, a show that I'm having here. Any of the blacks and the people that are in the executive role in motorsports, they understand how we got to where we at in the role of motorsports. Now, so on this Netflix series, Jamila Hill, Michael Strahan, Kamal Bell. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you mean to tell me with all this media out here, not one person of color said, hey, Bubba, hey, Michael, Latasha. Well, explain to me that Minority Youth Matter movement where them kids protested. Did that have anything to do with your position? History cannot be changed, and this is going to be a conversation ongoing. Now, the NASCAR fans, the NASCAR white fans, they understand exactly how Bubba got in his seat. With that said, I was the mastermind behind Minority Youth Matter movement. All the high-end attorneys. Well, Mr. Cox, are you the real one behind that? I don't understand what you're talking about. Let me go on record. I was the mastermind behind Minority Youth Matter movement, all those kids protesting all over the country. I got together with Dr. Roush to create clergy for a Minority Youth Matter movement, and I got a separate show on that. Now, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Andy Young, Maynard Jackson, they did a wonderful job, but nowhere in the history of motorsports was more powerful than Dr. Roush, Terry Alexander, and the bishop that brought this in. Now, I'm going to say this and let this go viral. I gave birth to Bubba Wallace. Let me explain why. Remember, this is the real state of Black America, and I'm the host, Terrence Cox. On this show, we're not candy coating anything, nothing. But what we're not going to do here is, in the history of motorsports, these kids are not getting their just reward. Black people, they brandish our kids for doing everything. Drugs, gangster rap, hip-hop, disrespectful. We cannot allow these children to not get their just reward in history. And let me tell you the reason why I, Terrence Cox, gave birth to Bubba Wallace. If it wasn't for that $500 million lawsuit, those Minority Youth Matter movement kids, the clergy for a Minority Youth Matter movement, Bubba Wallace would not be in the seat. But Bubba, you're going to come drive for us one day. And when you come to the tracks with American Standard Motorsports right here, the crowd's going to stand up and they're going to applaud you. There's Bubba Wallace. And I'm going to support that. But we're not going to let no history pertaining to these civil rights preachers and these kids be buried. This is an ongoing conversation. Bubba, the sponsors that you have, Columbia Sportswear. What should have taken place was they should have been able to use that in their marketing. Look at Bubba Wallace. The black community got behind him. He's in this seat because of these black kids. It's funny. History's funny. When blacks look back on time, everybody want to erase the history, the things we invented, the things we created. Everybody wants to erase that. They even erase entire towns. They want to erase that. Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace, and Latasha. How would you allow the history of your kids not to be promoted? Well, that don't make sense. Only black people do that. Now, if those who was Indians, Pakistani, Arabs, Bangladeshis, European white people, for their kids to do what they did for NASCAR and motorsport, there will be museums about it. There will be streets named Minority Youth Matter Movement because they changed the game. NASCAR sponsors. You know clearly how Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace, and Latasha got in the game. But I can respect you have a product and you want to keep yourself balanced and equal. Not a problem. Bubba Wallace, your fan base should be 10 times what you have. Even when you were interviewed by Steve Harvey, what you should have said was, hey, Steve, I just want to I want to shout out to all the black kids that brought change. You didn't have to get involved in it. Now, the funny thing about it is, everybody in the motorsport industry that are black, and there's a lot of us, they know how you got to see. I'm thinking, well, in a couple of years, he'll settle down and he will mention, Netflix, you were wrong. I'm going to do a separate show on Netflix. Only two things happen, Netflix. You have the best research team in the world. So when you did your research on this, you knew for a fact that it was the black kids and the black clergy that put Bubba Wallace in the car. So with that information, only two things could happen is you decided to whitewash history, Netflix, all the money we pay you, or somebody in the motorsport industry told you don't mention it. So Netflix, which one was it? Did you decide to change history? Or did somebody over here tell you don't write about it? This conversation is not going anywhere because that right there is not fair. There are too many times in history that black people just get whitewashed out of history if it's beneficial to their culture, if it is beneficial to their race. The nerve of you to do a series on Bubba and don't tell about the kids who put him in the car, Netflix. That's not right. Oh, and a lot of people talk about it. The motorsport black community saying, well, what the world is Netflix? If anybody should have came straight, it should have been Netflix. Now, if you want to do a real series that's going to get you some ratings, you contact us and let's do a series on really how motorsport got to where it is with Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace, Latasha. Okay? Because this conversation is not going anywhere till they acknowledge it was these black kids and these black clergies of 2 years of protesting in the snow, in the rain, all them black mamas that it's crazy. I've seen those black mamas buy everybody on the bus food with a food stamp card. I've seen them black kids march through that snow in front of the biggest corporations in New York City. Now, so you mean to tell me that we as a country is just going to whitewash that? Well, no, let's not talk about that. Well, this is the real state of Black America, and I'm the host, Terrence Alton Cox. This has been part of my journey in this conversation from this day on. You black kids, I promise you that we're going to get this up and running. You spent 2 years of your young life following me all across this country. I'm not going to let you down. We're going to get this up and running, and you are going to be known for what you've done. Now, in this world of motorsports, if it were not for these pictures, these images that you're going to see, NASCAR would remain just the way it has remained for 70 plus years. 70 plus years. Now, this is going to be a little salty to them. I don't give a damn. This is the history of this country, and this is a positive history of what young black kids have done. Look, they got Michael Jordan brand in this. They moved a black female into a Phoenix track because of these black preachers and these black kids. Bubba Wallace, you just benefited from this, which is good. But always remember, I gave you birth. Now, your mother might have gave you birth through her womb, but I gave you birth in motorsports. And the funny thing about it is, seemed like to me you would have called me one day and say, hey, Cox, don't let anybody know I'm talking to you, but I just want to thank you because if it were not for you lawsuiting these kids, I wouldn't be in this car. So motorsport world, this conversation is not going anywhere till somebody come up and say, I want to thank those kids. Now, with that said, Bubba Wallace, Michael Jordan, and Latasha, I need for you to join in this celebration, this contribution that African American people have given to this country, because they've given contribution to your world of motorsports to get you into the game. Now, when the young black kids were running around, talk about Black Lives Matter, Google it up. Everybody in the motorsport called them little kids little terrorists. They don't love the country. Their mamas and their daddies are mad people. Oh, and you trollers, do your homework. Do your homework. Do your homework. Now suddenly, after calling our kids little terrorists, because they were running around talking about Black Lives Matter, no justice, no peace. Black Lives Matter, no justice, no peace. Well, they were little terrorists. Well, in order for you to get in front of that $500 million lawsuit and to appease your sponsors, then you come up with a car with Black Lives Matter. Come on now. If I'm stupid, tell me I'm stupid. You use things to benefit you, and Black Lives Matter on the car, it benefited you. Oh, look at there, Black Lives Matter on the car. Where was your kids to put him in the seat to do that? But yet he has never once said a word. Let me tell you, sponsors. This is the golden goose. This has all of these people following this. This is the proud, 400 proud, the contribution that we've given to this country. Now that we have an understanding, I'm going to come back and say that because I want you to splatter that all over the newspaper. I gave birth to you, Bubba Wallace. It wasn't your mama and your daddy that got you in the game after he spent all of his money. It wasn't Richard Petty who used his name to get in the game. It wasn't the kids. The kids took the birth that I gave you and they grew you to where you're at today. So when you look back on history will say 100 years from now, that guy Terrence Cox gave birth to Bubba Wallace. It was them kids that groomed him to get in that seat. Now, isn't that a bold statement? But it's the truth. How dare him? It is the truth. Who the hell does he think he is? But it's the truth. I am the most knowledgeable marketing and stock cars of a black man in the world anywhere. I can't be that dumb. I got Bubba Wallace in a car. I can't be that dumb. I got Bubba Wallace in a car. Then came Michael Jordan. I can't be that dumb. Bubba Wallace, Michael Jordan, they gave this president, a black girl, a track. I gave birth to this. And these kids groomed it. And I applaud myself. I pat myself on the back for this. Now, I have thousands of pictures of black kids holding up signs, no justice, no peace, why we can't get in the game. I have come to the conclusion, and people in the motorsport industry that are black saying, well, if they don't quite want us into their process, their system, we will create our own. And that gave birth to American Standard Motorsports. Now, with that Race for Education program, and I'm sure that you've seen the other shows, We're going to take part of that $7 billion from product line, and American Standard Motorsport. That's $7 billion. We're putting a museum in Atlanta, Georgia, an American Standard Motorsport museum. And we're going to have all people of color in there. And the history, Michael Jordan, you're going to be in there. Bubba Wallace, you're going to be in there. Latasha, you're going to be in there. But the very foundation of that will be the kids and the black clergy that got you into the world of motorsports. It blows me away, Bubba, that you never once picked up that phone call and say, I don't need to be talking to you, but I just want to thank you, man. I'm in this seat and you rallied up them kids. Therein lies the difference between black people and European people. Black people, Jewish people. Black people, Lebanese people. They would not have missed an opportunity to push their kids up into this platform. Rather than doing that, Bubba, you've been dodging this. That doesn't make sense. I'm a marketing guy. Now, to all the sponsors out there, we're coming to ask for money. We're coming to ask for money for American Standard Motorsports. American Standard Motorsport already have the foundation, the fan base, because of the 400, the My Hip Hop Culture, and the Juneteenth. And let me say this, Michael. If you were going to bring your name into motorsports, it would have been better for you to have brought the name over here. With your name, I could have got the $30 million. Let me say that again. Michael Jordan, when these kids elevated Bubba Wallace, what you should have done, well, I don't want to say what you should have done. You're worth $1 billion. I'm not worth anything. But what I do is I'm a man chosen, and I have a vision. If you had brought your name to American Standard Motorsport, I could have picked up any bank in the world and say, here, I got Michael Jordan on my team. I need $30 billion. Cut the check for him. But that's all right. We got you in the game. Now, when you begin to look at, I'm going to do content on this show, and I'm going to be dropping pictures of all these black kids so that we get an understanding of what they've done. And I have thousands of pictures. Some pictures, these black kids running there, the KKK over there, Black Panthers over there, kids at the track with the Confederate flag behind it. Bubba, I gave birth to you. These kids gave birth to change. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this conversation. And one day, when the sponsors call you and say, did you hear this guy Cox, Bubba, is he right? Now the sponsors on your car are going to call you immediately. Hey, Bubba, this is Columbia Ware. This is Lados technology. Now, is it true that you're in that seat because of all these black kids, these thousands of pictures we're looking at? So you're going to have to answer them, yes, sir. Then they're going to come back and say, well, Bubba, why didn't you share this with us? Now you got us in a conversation where we don't need to be. Well, no, you need to be there. Because these kids put him in a position for you to come to him. So, Bubba, Michael Jordan, and Latasha, what I need you to do is I need you in this celebration here. Doesn't matter where you're at or what you're doing. When this is up and running, I want to be able to say, ladies and gentlemen, look who we have. We have a very special guest. Number 23 car, Michael Jordan and Bubba Wallace. Put your hands together for them. I need to be able to tell these black girls, shine the light over there in the VIP. There's Latasha Kazi. Oh, she was the first black. You see how this thing will intertwine one another. NASCAR and American Standard Motorsport are going to intertwine as no way it can now, because this is going to get up and running. So, with that said, my name is Terrence Alton Cox III. On this show, we view things a little differently. Our perspective on things. We don't have a problem ripping off the Band-Aid because it's for the good of the Race for Education program to pay the... See, this is something we had to get an understanding. Because everybody said, well, Terrence, well, when is Bubba Wallace going to mention about the kids? Well, he's not mentioning, so let me just bring it up. Let me bring up Michael. This is how Michael Jordan got in there. This is how Latasha got hers. And I applaud everybody because I gave birth to this. I gave birth to this. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Terrence Alton Cox, and I want to thank you for participating and watching this show. Always remember to treat people like you want to be treated so that we can make this world a little better place.